Everybody knows by now that we live in the era of IP slurry. IP, or intellectual property, is basically just an established thing, either a character or a series of books, a series of movies, a television series. When people talk about television studios and movie studios relying so much on IP these days, what they mean is the endless remakes, reboots, spin-offs, all that good stuff. One of the big reasons that the Writers Guild of America is striking right now is because of this worry that corporations will start to use AI to basically do the entire process of adaptation. And if you know me, if you know this channel, I have a lot of thoughts on adaptation. I have a podcast on it with my friend Zoe. I've done a bunch of adaptations myself. I think a lot about public domain, what the people should have access to. And so when people complain about the endless remakes, reboots, spin-offs, etc. nowadays, I am always a little bit hesitant to be fully on board with that. I like adaptations. I like seeing what people do with a story that already exists, bringing it into a different context, interpreting characters in different ways. At this very moment, I completely understand why people are sick of it, and I really don't care for capitalizing on the IP that everyone knows. We don't need more Star Wars right now, or if we did, there's a reason that probably the most positively reviewed Star Wars TV show right now is Andor, and I think it's because Cassian Andor is a character that was introduced more recently, and by following his story, we are seeing a part of the Star Wars universe that we maybe haven't seen before. Whereas the movies seem insistent on just following the same characters, beats, same themes over and over and over again, that's much less interesting to me. And just in general, when I see that there's a new Star Wars thing, I immediately don't care. The stuff that interests me is the IP that no one really cared about or was asking for more of. For example, new Ghostbusters movie, who cares? It's gonna make $1 bajillion, no one's gonna remember it in another year. Boring, pointless, I don't care. However, a sequel to the 2013 box office bomb, R.I.P.D., that is hilarious conceptually. I want that. I want to know what that would be. Unfortunately, what it was bad, but for a brief shining moment, it could have been anything. Because if the writer's strike has shown anything, it's that writers want to be writing good stories. And when the IP is not as protected as something like Ghostbusters, Star Wars, etc., I feel like there is much more of an opportunity for young writers getting into the business to really do something interesting, which was maybe only greenlit because it's an IP that the company is throwing at the wall and seeing if it sticks. But I don't want things to be bad. I want them to be good. And that brings us to the subject of today's video. What the hell is Pitch Perfect Bumper in Berlin?
You're famous in Germany. Your TikTok has 7.6 million views. It's like 1 million views.
Who asked for this? And the answer is no one. Even if you were gonna bring back Pitch Perfect in some shape or form, why would it be about Bumper, a character who was basically just in the first movie and was not a likable character, not someone anyone cared about, was basically just a douchebag. And that's why I am interested. That's why I want to watch it. I want to watch this show where it seems like they ran down the credits of Pitch Perfect, called every single actor to see if they were available. Anna Kendrick's too busy. Skylar Astin's on some show called So Help Me Todd. Ben Platt, no, I'm not getting him. Best we can do, Adam Devine reprising his role as Bumper. Side note, Bumper in Berlin sounds like a drug thing, right? So that on its own, fascinating to me. I want to watch this, I want to know what this is. But what's even more interesting to me is watching the trailer. There is very little that makes you think this would be Pitch Perfect. There is a reference to a riff-off.
Riff-off.
Whiff-off.
Riff-off.
You said whiff-off, I said whiff-off.
There is a part where he is standing in front of Barden University. That's it. The rest of it, okay. The rest of it might be inspired by David Hasselhoff.
All I knew of Austria growing up was a film called The Sound of Music, and Julie Andrews and Salzburg. And I found out that, I thought it was a Hollywood movie set, but I found out that it was reality.
I don't think that's actually too much of a reach. The whole premise of Bumper in Berlin seems to be that he is a failed pop star who learns that his songs were very popular in Germany and goes there to capitalize on that. That is literally what happened to David Hasselhoff. There's a video by Alison Pregler that I really suggest about David Hasselhoff's tour, which I think was actually in Austria, but it's the same sort of thing. If this is a Pitch Perfect spin-off, quote unquote, about a character no one cared about, following the career trajectory of David Hasselhoff, you're just getting me more and more on board. I have not watched this show yet. I'm gonna watch all 6 episodes and then make the next half of this video. I want this to be good. I want to sit in front of this camera once I am done and say to all of you, that was surprisingly pretty good. The next time you see me, I will either be in high spirits or defeated. Let's find out. That was pretty good. I had a pretty good time with that. I would say very solid 3 out of 5 star TV show. Pretty corny, there's not a ton to it. That's kind of what I expected. It exceeds mediocrity a little bit. Now would I recommend it? That's part of the problem, which I'll get to. Pitch Perfect Bumper in Berlin is about Bumper. He's in Berlin. It actually turns out I completely forgot the plot of Pitch Perfect 2. I forgot that there was like a whole rival a cappella group from Germany. And so I forgot that there was actually another recurring character, which is Peter, the guy who invites Bumper to Germany. Basic premise of the show, Bumper is working security, trying to relive his glory days on an a cappella team in college. He has like an a cappella group of a bunch of middle-aged men who all have real lives outside of it, and he doesn't. An a cappella TikTok mashup of Take On Me and 99 Luftballons he made and posted apparently goes viral in Germany and gets a call from Peter, who says that if Bumper comes to Germany, Peter can make him a star based off of this initial virality. Bumper goes to Germany, and I was kind of right about the David Hasselhoff thing, because Peter's grand plan is to eventually get Bumper to perform at the German Unity Day festival celebrating the Berlin Wall coming down. David Hasselhoff brought down the wall, and Bumper Allen is dancing in its ashes. But it turns out Peter was actually exaggerating how viral the video was in Germany, which I don't really know how you could do that. Like, you can see your own TikTok views and stats, whatever. So the team is actually working from basically nothing to get Bumper on that grand stage. And they have to do all this in 6 half-hour episodes, which feels evil to me. That's not even 3 hours, because the episodes aren't really half an hour, they're like 25 minutes. I've made web series longer than that. I don't blame the writers for not getting super deep into like characterization and more complicated plots, because they didn't have the damn time. However, some of what we did get, I actually liked a lot, and I want to talk about it. I guess spoilers, but like I said, we're gonna get into whether I recommend it or not. It'll probably be fine. This is not the kind of show where like, if you spoil something, it'll ruin the experience or whatever. I want to go a little bit in depth into the characters, the main cast of the show. And you may say to yourself, Rainy Day Jules, why are you spending your time doing character analysis on a show as flimsy as Pitch Perfect Bumper in Berlin? And to that I say, it's fun. As a screenwriter myself, I think it's pretty important to not only analyze characters from the most complicated, deep television shows ever, it's also important to get into like these very basic archetypes and like figure out what parts of them work, what parts of them don't. So our main cast, let's start with Bumper. With Bumper, the writers had the Herculean task of making this side character who kind of sucked into a reasonable protagonist that we would end up rooting for. This is a problem that a lot of spin-offs centering around more minor characters end up having to work through. Like, my first thought is the spin-off of Buffy the Vampire Slayer called Angel, which is about, you know, Angel, the character. And the thing about Angel in the original show is he's kind of boring. He's kind of just a love interest who's sad. And so in order to make him the lead of his own show, they really had to add more traits to this guy. And I think they did a pretty good job. I really like Angel in Angel the series, and when he comes back from the spin-off into Buffy the Vampire Slayer later in the series, I think he's a stronger character because of the development that happened for him in the spinoff. Now for Bumper and Berlin, it's a little bit harder because they are not working on a kind of bland character, they're working on a character who actively is not a great person. And what they do is they basically just make him a himbo, which honestly was probably the best way to go about it. Like I said, they don't really have time for a redemption arc exactly, and so making him just kind of immature, but kind of pushing aside a lot of his more unpleasant qualities, I think was probably the best way to go about it. And I ended up liking Bumper as the protagonist. He's my least favorite of the kind of main 4 characters, but luckily, despite the show being called Bumper and Berlin, it's way much more of an ensemble cast than I might have thought. Yeah, the whole arc of the season is focused on getting Bumper to Unity Day, but there's a lot of stuff surrounding the other characters that happens that I cared about more. But Bumper's fine. He's just kind of stupid, he's immature. Like, those are the character flaws that they managed to have without making him just a full-blown asshole like he could tend to be in the original movies. Talk about a character's wants versus their needs. You might have guessed this from the little summary of the premise I gave, but his basic want is to be famous. And it does kind of feed off what was established about him in the original movies, where at the end of the first one, he left the group in order to become a solo pop star. And he has kind of continued that feeling like he needs to do everything on his own until, because of this show and this character arc, he learns that he needs people. He needs friends, he needs people to support him. Maybe being famous isn't as important as having people who genuinely like you and want to be around you. It's a stock, basic character arc, but it works. The next character I want to talk about is Peter. I actually like Peter a lot more than I thought I would. Like, from the trailers, he just seemed like he was gonna be incredibly annoying, but he actually makes a very good foil to Bumper in that he was also part of an a cappella group, but instead of choosing to leave himself, he was kicked out for apparently causing a technical situation that got the a cappella group disgraced forever. One thing that's funny about the Pitch Perfect universe is that, like, a cappella is valued just as much as, like, football and basketball. Like, everybody cares about a cappella. This German a cappella group disgraced itself, and they've basically been, like, exiled from society. But he's lying to Bumper about just how successful the mashup he did was in Germany, because, like, he sees something in Bumper. He thinks he can be a star, and he thinks by, like, managing him, it's a path to redemption for him, because if he can make a good performance happen at Unity Day, maybe the German population can forgive him and he can stop being in exile. But yeah, I like Peter. He's also kind of a doofus, but I think there's a pretty good emotional core to how he behaves throughout the series, especially in regards to his relationship with his sister, who is also one of the main characters. His sister is named Taya, and I love her. She's a DJ, she's a producer, she's bisexual, she's polyamorous. What more could you ask for? But continuing the idea of Peter kind of using Bumper as a way to get back into pretty much anyone's good books, he and his sister have grown kind of estranged. She is very successful as a DJ, he is not successful at all, and he goes to her like, hey, this is Bumper, I think he's cool and he has potential, you should produce songs for him. She doesn't want to at first, and then she does, because Bumper proves to her that he is worth her time by writing a good song. I actually really liked Peter and Taya's relationship. There were some very sweet moments between them. I liked seeing them reconnect as siblings. It's the sort of sibling relationship where you can tell most of the friction between them was caused by the way their parents raised them. That comes across very clearly, and I'm impressed they were able to do that, again, in such a short amount of time. And then the fourth main character is Heidi, who, watching the trailer, I thought to myself, oh, she's the love interest. She's Bumper's love interest. That was only cemented when I learned how her actress Sarah Hyland, she was a regular on Modern Family, and Adam Devine actually played one of her character's many love interests. They were kind of the fan favorite couple, and her character did not end up with him. People were mad about that, and so bringing her on to play a love interest of another Adam Devine character is either like making good on the amount of chemistry that these actors already were proven to have, or like a play to get Modern Family fans who felt annoyed about that outcome. I don't care, they do have chemistry. It's good. And I liked Heidi a lot more than I thought I would. She and Bumper are very similar in a lot of ways. They like instantly have a nice rapport, but she is much more nervous about standing alone on a stage. She wants to be a singer, a songwriter, but she does not think that she can make it on her own. And again, her arc is sort of learning, like, you don't have to make it on your own. You can have people by your side who help you, and that helps make you less afraid of the performing. It's stock, it's basic, it works. But she does have her own arc. Like, when I said that Bumper wrote a song that impressed Taya, actually it was Heidi who wrote the song. Bumper was just playing it. It was a whole like contrived sitcom plot. It was probably the most annoyed I was during this series because it was like just a dumb miscommunication thing. And those always annoy me. But it was resolved within like 10 minutes because they had no time to make it last longer. And I appreciate that. The romance is good. I like them together. However, I'm me. And so for me, the ships are Heidi and Taya, and then Bumper and Peter. Look, I can't change who I am. Those are the four main characters, but then we have the villain character, who is Gisela. She's played by Jamila Jamil, and she's the worst part of the show. I think Gisela as a character works well as a villain, hypothetically. She is a former member of Peter's a cappella group that he got expelled from. The group fell apart, and now she is making it as a solo pop singer. She is everything that Bumper wanted to be, and she also sucks. Bumper sees her, and he's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't want to be what I thought I wanted to be. I just don't know why they cast Jamila Jamil in this role. I mean, I do, because name recognition, but first of all, she's playing a German character. She does not have a natural German accent. She's putting one on. And that combined with the fact that the things her character says are often like very exaggerated and goofy. The accent sounds bad. I just don't like her performance. I do like the bit where she's like trying to seduce Heidi. That's fun.
Ooh, wonder who the lucky guy is. Or girl, who knows?
In fact, this show is way gayer than I thought it would be. I appreciate it. I'm not really gonna get into the plot at all. There's like a couple of standout moments for me. There's like, in the first episode, there is a joke that cracked me up.
While you guys are gone, I'm gonna do a little bit of shopping for Bumper. He seems to have brought an odd number of socks, and his only dress shirt has all the Looney Tunes repelling from the collar.
I love Taz. Tweety's cool too. Let's go.
And it's a dumb joke, but it made me laugh very hard. I like the bit where at Bumper's first performance in Germany, Gisela has stolen his mashup of Take On Me and 99 Luftballons, and so he has to improvise, and he pulls a whole How to Make an Alt J song bit.
Butt, put it in my butt, put it in my, put it up, put it in my butt, put it in my butt, put it up, put it in my butt, put it up, put it up, put it up, put it up now.
God, I hope people get that reference. Okay. It's fun. It's a fun show. It's nice. It's casual. There's a nice overall season arc. There's a cute little romance. It works. A very solid show for the 6 episodes that they got. Do I suggest you watch it? Yeah, it depends. There are very specific criteria that I would suggest it to you. 1, you are already subscribed to Peacock. 2, you are a fan of the original Pitch Perfect movie. 3, you have 3 hours to spare. And even then, can I say that it's worth your time? I'm not sure, because right now we are so oversaturated with television shows, and there are probably 5 shows on your watch list that you will enjoy so much more than this show. I guess that's another part that I can pull back to the writers and actors strike currently going on. There are a lot of TV shows that are just pulled together, made quickly, dumped on a streaming platform. Maybe it gets some advertisement, especially if it is based on a existing property. And then if it does not do well enough in the streaming service's eyes, whatever metrics it uses, those metrics are completely hidden. It's canceled, it's forgotten. By the end of the year, I fully expect to see one of those articles of, here are all the shows that Peacock pulled from their streaming service, and for Pitch Perfect, Bumper in Berlin to be on it, and for no one to really notice. And that makes me sad, man. It's fun. Treating any art as worthless and disposable, I think, is not the right way to approach it. I mean, I guess there are some things that are worthless and disposable mostly, but even then, like, you might not want to watch it, you might not like that it exists, but it can be interesting to talk about why you don't like it and why it shouldn't exist. And in order to do that, you would need to be able to watch it. You would need it to be available somewhere. I guess if anything I said about the show interests you at all and you're working through your backlog of shows to watch while the strike is going on, I don't know, put it on. Again, won't take too much of your time. You'll get some laughs. There's some sweet moments. It's good, but I cannot in good conscience recommend that everybody watch it, and I don't like that. In a multitude of ways, the people who make television and movies deserve better, and hopefully with these strikes, they will get that.